How many are there today? Please tell me whether you can see the screen properly.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm. So we are going to discuss floating point literal today. This was the point where we had stopped yesterday, right? So floating point literal we are going to discuss today. Now, what are floating point literals? Students, floating point literals are used for representing real numbers, or we can say fractional numbers with a fractional part, or decimal numbers. Now, numbers with a decimal point. Okay, that is those numbers which cannot be represented as integers, right? So those, just give me a moment, okay? Thank you. So those numbers which have an integer point, sorry, they have a decimal point in between, they are termed as floating point literals. That is because this point is supposed to float in this number. Like for example, this same number can be represented as, now this is 45.123. If I decide to shift this point two places here towards the left, so I can write it as 0.45123 into 10 raised to the power 2. And this same thing can be represented, this is the scientific notation which we have been following in mathematics. Now, to represent this in case of Python, we will be writing it this way: 0.45123 E02. That means this E02 represents into 10 raised to the power 02 means 2. Okay. Had it been E12, it would have been into 10 raised to the power 12. Understood? And if I have a number like this and I decide to shift this point over here, so this will be 7.53 into 10 raised to the power. How many places did I shift? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that will be 10 raised to the power minus 4, and this will be represented like this. E minus 04, which stands for into 10 raised to the power minus 4. Understood? So when you are representing such values in Python or any programming language, they are represented this way. Now this is for cases when you get an answer where number of places after the decimal is exceeding a certain limit, right? But if they are smaller numbers like these numbers, it is fine. You can, your answer, whatever you will get, it could be something like this. Till here it is okay, but if it exceeds this limit, your Python might display it in the scientific notation. So that is not our concern. Our main concern is that how we can represent floating point literal. And because this point, it floats, and that is the reason why I am able to shift it from left to right in any way. Okay, so that is the reason why it is named as floating point literal. Okay. Now, the rules for forming a floating point literal is you should have at least one place before the decimal point and at least one place, one digit after the decimal point, even if it is 0. So decimal point, one digit before it, one digit after it. This is the minimum requirement for a floating point number. Now examples how you can represent any floating point number, any real number using this. Like for example, radius of a circle, you can represent it as 5.5, 5.25, you can represent it as 15.75, and any value you can give. And these can also be negative numbers. Okay, any value you can take. You can also use negative values, and you can also use positive values, and 0 will be represented like this, that is 0.0, because we are talking about floating point numbers. And in short, we say that the data type is float. Okay, so floating point numbers are there. More details about data type, we will study more details about each data type when we study the chapter data handling. Okay, right now I am only making you acquainted with all the different data types. To dig deeper into it, please be a little patient, and we will be seeing that in data handling chapter, right? So these are floating point literals. That is, in your program, you can also create floating point literals. Let us see for ourselves. Okay, one more thing I wanted to tell you about was there is a site where you can easily practice Python, right? So if many of you might be having a problem with your Python IDE, you may not be able to install Python IDE on your computer. So for that purpose, what you can do is you can easily just look for an online Python notebook. So I'll quickly show that to you right now. So I'm going for a Jupyter notebook online. So you can see I have just typed this Jupyter notebook online, and just click on Jupyter notebook, and just uh, come to this part, try it in your browser, and go for try classic notebook, and click on that, and it will wait for some time. It creates a repository as temporary area in the cloud, and where we can create our programs, but they won't be stored permanently. Okay, you'll have to download them to your computer. So it creates this notebook, and you can see over here. So you can just go to File, New Notebook, and Python 3. And this will create a notebook of, you can just give a name to your notebook by clicking on this untitled. So I can just type here Gargi's notebook and click on rename. Now this particular window which you are seeing, you can create programs in both in the interactive as well as the script mode. We will study what is interactive mode, what is script mode. Like for example, I type here print hello world. Okay, press and not press enter. For running this, you need to click on this button, run, and you will get the result over here. Okay, so this is how you can use this. And now over here, you can run any other code. Like for example, let us start by assigning some variables, some constants. Let us start by some literals. Okay, assigning some literal values, some values to variables. Like for example, I want to write a equals 5, then b equals 4.1, 4.25, and I'm writing c equals minus 13, and I'm writing d equals uh, 456.25, and also I use a negative number over here, and press enter, and now I'm going to print their values. A equals, I type A, print equals, let me just write, type the first double quote, the second one automatically appears. And that way you have C equals C, C equals. Okay. And to run this, we are going to click on this run button, and you can see all the values of the variables are printed. You can also check their type, like I type here type, or I write here print type of A, and we run it, and you can see it belongs to which class? Integer. Okay, if I write here print type B and I run it, you will see it belongs to type class float, right? Because B is 4.25, it has a decimal point over here, right? If I write here E equals, I write here E equals 0.0 and I print its type and I run this, it gives me type float. Why? Because this is 0.0, one decimal point has been used, even if there is a 0 after that. Okay, so if you are representing E as 0.0, it will give you the type float, and if you are representing any number as only 0 and typing its and printing its type, that is type F, it will give you what? Class integer, right? So this is how it works. So students, this also you can use, but there is a cost you need to pay here. That is, you cannot save it permanently, right? Once you click on this close button, this repository is gone. So you can just, and there is a save button here, but it hardly works because I have used it and checked it. So what you can do is you can just download everything. Okay, so just go to file menu, click on download as, you can download it as HTML or a notebook file or a PDF, okay, or a Python file. So you can just click on this python.py and it gets downloaded over here, and you can see it gets downloaded as a Python program. And you can just open your Python IDE on your computer. So I'm opening the Python IDE and I will tell you how it can be accessed on your computer. Now here you can go to File, Open, and we'll go to Downloads and go to Gargi's Notebook, click on Open, and you'll find everything over here. So all these things that is in and these are hidden, they are, you can just ignore these lines because these are comment lines which are not uh, read by your interpreter. Okay, only the Python statements, they are going to be executed. So you can just go to run and you can run. All these things I'll explain to you. Okay, so you can run this. This is just to show you that you can use an online repository also. You can also, if you have problem installing Python on your computer, you can also quickly access the Jupyter Notebook. Okay, so this is very helpful for quick programming, right? So please use this and see for yourself. So these were floating point literals as we saw. Now next is we also have a complex number literal. Though there are not many exercises in your textbook regarding complex, but Python also contains one data type known as complex, which is exclusively used for representing complex numbers. In this 11th class in mathematics, you are going to study complex numbers. Okay, those who have opted for mathematics, you will be studying complex numbers, but I'll just give you a short intro about it. Complex numbers are numbers which are, now please, one request to everyone, don't ask me the details about complex numbers because firstly my subject, my specialization is not mathematics. Okay, for more insight into complex numbers, kindly consult your mathematics teacher. I can only give you a basic introduction about complex numbers, right? So here in complex numbers, you have those are numbers which contain a real part and an imaginary part. We will not be seeing it immediately right now because you people don't have an introduction about any idea about the complex numbers. So once you explore that in mathematics, it would be better to revisit that topic later. So they have a real part and an imaginary part. Actually, the idea is there are certain uh, ways, like some solutions, they are applicable on real numbers. Okay, but there are also some numbers which are imaginary numbers, and the solutions which are applicable on the real numbers, they are not applicable on them. So that is why a different category of numbers was created known as complex numbers, and they are normally represented like this: a plus bi. Okay, where a is a real part, it's a real number, and it could be integer or float. Whereas this b, it can also be integer and float, but it has associated with it an iota, which represents under root minus 1, that is square root of minus 1. So this square root of minus 1 is something which is considered as imaginary. Okay, and this is given the term of iota, and it is represented by I. So a, this is the real part and this is the imaginary part. And in Python, these numbers are represented like this: a plus bj. Okay, so instead of taking this I, they have considered j to be taken. Okay, so a plus bj. So any complex number literal like 4 plus 3j is considered. Okay, then you have 5 plus 4j. Then you can also have negative values like minus 2 minus 3j, or 2 minus 3j, or minus 5 plus 3j, and so on. So these are examples of complex number literals in Python. So this complex numbers, I'm going to come to it when you people, when I confirm that at least one batch of yours has completed this in your class. And the commerce students, kindly do not worry, because at that time I will also give you a little more information about complex numbers, and you don't have to worry much, because in your syllabus there are not many, only an introduction to complex numbers is given, so it's not a very important topic as well, right? We won't be performing many operations on complex numbers, so you don't have to worry. This is just to tell you that Python has this special type of a data type, but other programming languages, they don't have this data type. There you use classes or structures to create user defined complex data. Okay, so you have to create that data type yourself and write code to handle those, whereas in Python it is already built into the language, right? So we can just take the example over here on this Python repository. Just a second, students. I need to magnify the screen for you all. Fine. I hope it is visible to everyone. Okay. So here I am just typing a statement. So I've taken the variable name as cnum, and I'm just giving a value here. I'm just printing its type, and I'm going to run this, and you get the value complex, class complex. So this number belongs to which class? The complex class. Okay, so by this it should be clear that complex is a separate data type in Python. Apart from this, now we have the most important thing, that is Boolean. Boolean data type. Boolean is also a type of integer only. Okay, it is a subset of integer data type, and it consists of only two values, true and false. That too true written like this without any single quotes or double quotes. You will not include these two, no quotes. I am writing here very clearly, no quotes are to be used here, and specifically it has to be title case. That means first letter should be capital. Okay, rest should be small. You have to write it exactly in this way only. Okay, so Boolean means there are two values, true and false. Actually, this Boolean, this term comes from the name of a famous mathematician, George Boole. Okay. So what he did was he created a separate. You will study Boolean algebra, so you'll learn more about him there. He created a system of numbers, a separate branch of mathematics known as Boolean algebra. Why? Because this type of algebra deals with only two values. That is on or off state of the computer. They say that it is very, why this 0 and 1, why binary numbers system was introduced for, or why people thought that binary values could be considered as a language which a computer can understand. That is because it was very easy to make it in the form of on and off state. You have a switch, you just have to switch it on or switch it off. And using that, you can easily create a language. For example, you all have heard about Morse code. Many of you were in Scout and Guide. So you must be knowing about Morse code. Can anybody just tell me? You've studied about Morse code, dots and
Ma'am, it
dashes.
uses dots and dashes to create letters.
Yes, to create letters. That means for communication, you are using it for passing information, right? That is, if you are in a dire situation where you don't have, I'll give you a very nice example of this. I had seen a movie, an English movie, a few years ago, uh, Panic Room. Okay, I don't know if anybody has seen that or not. I had seen this movie, Panic Room. So in that, it's a story about a single mother and her daughter, and there were some intruders who there were some burglars who break into the room, break into their house in the middle of the night. Now they both were in a very dire situation where they wanted help desperately. So what the mother did was she couldn't speak, she couldn't shout, she couldn't yell, otherwise they would have killed the daughter. So they used that. She just used sorry, she just used a flashlight, that is a torch, and she was making use of Morse code to just send the message help, HELP, to her neighbor. But unfortunately the neighbor didn't know Morse code, and hence that was all in vain. But this is a very good, I mean, it's a very useful means of communication, and only two symbols are used, dot and dash, right? And because it is very easy to communicate using dots and dashes in dire situations where you don't have multiple options. Okay, only by using a torch or only by using a whistle you can easily communicate to someone. So same way, on and off state, true and false, or 1 and 0, where true is considered 1 and false is considered 0. This was thought to be a very easy means of communication or making a computer understand words. Okay, by representing each and everything, letters, numbers, digits, everything in the form of zeros and ones, we could easily communicate with the computer. So that is why Boolean algebra was created, which was used for making designing circuits using the Boolean language. And we have a separate data type also, where if you want you can create variables containing these. Like for example, I want to create a now here there are only two literals, true and false. So I'm giving you an example. Suppose uh, you are creating a program where you are deducing whether a person is eligible to vote or not. Okay, and for that you create a variable eligible. And this variable can contain only two values. Either it can contain true or it can contain false. So using this, it is very easy to understand that it will be true or false. Another example I'm giving you all. You just check whether you are actually creating a function, a small subprogram where you are checking whether a person, you are passing the age of the person to this function, and this function deduces, it finds out whether the person is eligible to vote or not, and it returns a value. It returns the value of this variable eligible. Somewhere, depending upon the condition, either you might have set the value of eligible as true, or you might have set the value of eligible as false. So this value is returned, and depending upon this value, we can check, we can perform other operations. That if a person is eligible for voting, then he might be getting, he is an adult, he might be getting some other benefits, okay, and various other things, right? So this way you will also come across Boolean literals, which are only two, true and false. इसके अलावा कुछ नहीं होता है. Boolean literal सिर्फ ये दो चीजें होती हैं. And when we start with programming and when we encounter various situations, there actually you will understand the use of these two Boolean literals. One example I already gave you, a very small example. And many a times you need Boolean variables in your program to just check if suppose a particular condition is satisfied, set the flag as true. Like for example, when we were studying device selection, do you remember that device selection in IOCS? If the device was available, what was set? True was set in the device selection flag. Okay, that is process state register, PSR register. True was set. And if the device selection was not successful, false was set over there. Right, so two values were used. So this true, if the value over here set is true, it says that okay, device is available for selection and we can go ahead with the next step. And if it is false, it says that device has malfunctioned or not available because it is busy or some other thing might have happened. So device, it cannot move on to the next. So there are various situations where you will be needing the Boolean data type also. So let's check it out over here. Like I write here eligible equals, I write true, and you can see the color of true is changing. If I print its type, and here I'm going to run it, and you can see it gives me the class bool. Okay, the short for Boolean, that is bool, right? So bool can, any Boolean data type can contain only either true or false. So the literals are only these two, true and false. Okay, so we studied integer, float, Boolean, complex. Complex we will be seeing in detail where once you people have already seen it in your class. We will come back to it later, and only in Python fundamentals chapter you will find a short introduction about complex. पूरे syllabus में in 11th and 12th there are no exercises related to complex, so we are not going to give more weightage to that. Okay. Then we have a special literal known as none. It is a special literal known as none, which says absence of values. Absence of a valid value. That is, there is nothing. Okay, not even zero, because zero is also a value. It is a valid value. So you cannot say that if I write here a equals 0, it has a valid value, right? You cannot say that it is empty. No, a equals 0 is not empty. 0 is a valid integer value, right? 0.0 is also an integer value. If I write str equals space, that is also, it's a white space character, so this is also a valid value, right? But if you have to show absence of a value, means you want to create a variable but you don't want to store any value in that. So for that you can simply write a equals none. Again, none in capital, rest everything small, and no quotes. Understood this? No quotation marks anywhere. Got it? So this is what a equals none. That is your valid value. That is your absence of a value. So this none is written as it is. The special literal none, it is written as it is. None means there is no value. So I'll show it to you over here. Right. I take a variable num and I give none to it. And you can also see its color changing of num. And let me run it. And you will see none type. That is, it doesn't contain any valid value. If I try to add it to something like num equals num plus 5 and I try to print the value of num. If I run this, you will see there is an error, that is unsupported operand type for plus, none type and int. That is, you are trying to perform an addition operation between none type, that is num, and an integer value, which is impossible, right? So none means you cannot perform any operations, any calculations on it. It is just given for special purposes. You will study this better when you study data structure. When there are certain situations where right in the beginning you want to create a variable and you don't want to store any specific value in that variable. Okay, and that is why when you will be using none, and this none is used a lot when you are working with data structures, right, which you will be studying next year, that is in 12th class. So this was special literal none, and now we have the last one, that is collections. Now what are collections? Python has a huge variety of collections, that is list, tuple, set and dictionary. Right? Again, set is something which in your syllabus not much weightage is given to set. You might only find a single line in your text. Okay. So set also we will be overlooking it a little bit. Okay. Because we have to give more importance to these three topics, that is list, tuple and dictionary. So what are lists? Lists are, they are ordered collection, ordered, that is sequential collection of data. Okay, for example, I'm going to directly go to the Jupyter notebook here and I can create a list of any type, like I can create a list of numbers, and lists are always enclosed within square brackets, right? So it could be like this. So here you can see that I have created a list of numbers. If I print its data type, it is class list. Okay, because, and how do you identify list? You can identify list by the square brackets within which the values are enclosed. You can create a list of fruits, that is strings also, and you can enclose each of these. Now you can see this is a list of string values. Okay, and strings, as you know, they can be enclosed within single or double quotes, etc. Right? So this is fruits, and if you print fruits, you'll be able to see how it is printed, and this is how it is printed. Okay, so it just prints the values, and you can also store heterogeneous data. In the previous two examples, these are examples of lists containing homogeneous data, that is same type or identical type data. This is a list of integers, this is a list of strings. You can also store a list containing different data of different data types. Like for example, I'm going to store the result of the student name Mohan. Okay. Roll number, name of the student. Okay. Then maybe marks in some subject. Okay. Maybe percentage in some subject. And I'm also storing the age of the student, that is 16 years. That is the age of the student. And his favorite subject is, you can say the favorite subject of the student is mathematics. So I'm storing math, okay, over here. And you can also have any other thing like, is he taking up a particular course, or is he a hosteler? Is he a hosteler student? So you can just write here. So these are certain information about a student. Normally, this type of a list you will use when you are working with file handling. That is when you are sending data to a file. And for sending data to a file, you need a certain type of a compact object. And this list acts as a compact object which can store records, student records, employee records, item or product records, and everything. Okay. So where already the structure is determined, you just have to send the data. So this is how it is. The roll number, name of the student, marks in any particular subject, and then your percentage and the age of the student, the favorite subject, and whether he is a hostler or not. Hostler means he lives in the hostel or not, right? So you can send this data to a file, and when you fetch the data from the file, uh, the data is fetched in the exact same format, and you can use it for either displaying it in a tabular format or for doing a lots of things which we will study gradually. Okay, so you can see that this is a list and it stores here also. If I type the data type, you will see that the data type is list. So you can see the data type is list. Okay, so this is an example of storing heterogeneous data. And here, this is an example of storing homogeneous data. Also, this is homogeneous data. Got it? So, say either identical data you can store, or you can store data belonging to different types. But I'll tell you, the most favored or the most frequently used type is the homogeneous data type. Okay, and this heterogeneous data type, you use it mostly when you are working with databases or files in your Python program. Okay. I hope it all the now few are left, that is tuples and dictionary, which we will cover in the next class. Our first our PT2 syllabus is already complete. Okay. So and I have already also dispatched the notes to you. So please kindly go through the notes and do the needful. Right. So these 2-3 things which we will cover in the next class. Tomorrow also we have a class. So we are, and tomorrow it's the last period. So I'll be stretching the last period till 11:30. Okay. So no more extra class will be there. In continuation only, I'll stretch the class till 11:30, and we will try to cover. We will at least try to start with basic programming tomorrow. Okay. So with this, I
Ma'am,
yes.
ma'am, that notes is still syllabus of UT or whole chapter?
No, it is still the syllabus till where I have taught. You might have seen that I have also sent you first two. One is a PPT which I send you. That sorry, the PDF of the PPT I have sent you. Okay, so the PDF is. Let me just clarify that once. Just a sec. Wait a sec. This PPT is for your chapter getting started with Python, which you are getting in your PT2, right? So this is that one. So here everything you have to write whatever is there, because everything is in the form of points, right? So the language is also very easy, and most of the points from your textbook are covered with some extra information, right? So you have to write this in your copy, because then only you will be registering points in your mind. So this PPT is for your half yearly, sorry, not half yearly, your PT2 exam. Okay. Apart from this, Python basics, I have created another one. I have sent you this one, that is Python app, and here I am considering the entire unit, that is by programming and computational thinking. So that entire Python comes under this unit. Okay, all chapters of Python come under this unit only. And in that, I have also specified the chapter, that is Python fundamentals, which is your next chapter. This fundamentals chapter is not coming in your PT2, right? But you have to write this in your copy. Why? Because we have started with that chapter. So as we are completing topics, I'm sending, you can see keywords, identifiers, so all the token types. I have compiled the notes for that. So please write them in your copy. This would be a help for your exam. Understood, Kushi?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so thank you all.
Thank